The serpent that judged men. What happened at the temple roof no one talks about. No one in the village remembered when the serpent first appeared on the roof of the old temple, only that one morning it was there, coiled along the clay tiles like a living shadow, its body thicker than a man's torso, its scales dark and dull, as if they absorbed sound. And from that day on, the air around the temple felt heavier, slower, as though time itself hesitated before crossing the courtyard. The elders said the snake was called Karun, an ancient guardian bound to the temple long before prayers had names, a creature that did not strike out of hunger, but out of judgment. And the villagers learned quickly not to point, not to shout, not even to look up for too long, because those who stared at Karun felt a pressure in their chest that stayed with them long after they looked away. One afternoon, when the heat pressed down hard enough to silence even the birds, a foreign man arrived, tattooed from neck to waist, carrying himself with the confidence of someone who believed fear was a weakness other people suffered from. And he stood in the courtyard with his arms crossed, eyes fixed not on the shrine, not on the offerings, but on the snake above, as if measuring it. The locals watched from the shade, whispering warnings no one expected him to understand, because the last outsider who challenged the temple had left, carried on a bamboo stretcher, breathing but empty, unable to explain what he had seen. Then the handler stepped forward, the only man in the village permitted to approach Karun, lean and scarred, moving with the careful calm of someone who knew that confidence meant nothing here, holding a live cobra in his hands not as a weapon but as a reminder, because snakes recognize their own. He knelt slowly, never breaking eye contact with the roof, and raised the cobra upright, its hood spread, its body tense, and the air shifted again, subtle but unmistakable. As Karun's head lifted, tongue tasting the heat, sensing challenge and intention alike, the foreign man laughed once, low and dismissive, and that sound carried farther than it should have, echoing into the temple's shadowed interior, where old stone figures watched with worn faces and patient expressions. The handler did not look back, but his voice dropped, steady and clear, telling the man that this was not a show and not a test of strength, that Karun did not care who you were or where you came from, only why you stood there. And for a moment it seemed the warning might land, because the man's smile faltered just enough to reveal uncertainty beneath the ink and muscle. That was when the serpent moved, not fast, not slow, but deliberate, its massive body uncoiling across the roof with a sound like dry leaves shifting, its head lowering until its eyes aligned with the courtyard, with the man, with the handler, with everyone holding their breath. And in that instant, every person present understood the same thing, without being told, that Karun was not hunting, it was listening. The cobra in the handler's grip froze, its body stiff, its hood collapsing as if instinct itself had surrendered, and the handler lowered it gently to the ground, palms open, exposing his chest in a gesture older than language, a sign of submission not to the snake, but to the law it represented. The foreign man took a step back, then another, his confidence leaking away as the serpent's gaze stayed fixed on him alone. And for the first time, he spoke without bravado, asking what it wanted, his voice cracking on the last word. And the handler answered without looking at him, saying that Karun did not want anything. It only decided who was allowed to stay. The serpent leaned forward, its head hovering above the courtyard, close enough for its breath to stir dust and incense smoke, close enough for the man to feel heat radiating from something that should have been cold. And in that moment the man dropped to one knee without realizing he had done it, his hands pressed flat to the stone, his eyes squeezed shut as if darkness were safer than the truth opening above him. Karun held there for a long, unbearable stretch of time, long enough for fear to burn into memory, long enough for pride to break cleanly instead of shatter, and then, without warning, the serpent lifted its head and recoiled, sliding back onto the roof, settling once more into stillness, as if nothing had happened at all. The pressure in the air eased, the cobra lifted its head again, the birds returned cautiously to the trees, and the handler finally exhaled, rising to his feet with slow, controlled movements. The foreign man did not speak again. He stood, bowed awkwardly toward the shrine, and walked out of the courtyard without looking back, leaving the village before sunset. And those who later met him on the road said he was quieter, slower, as if part of him had been left behind on the temple stone. That night the villagers placed fresh offerings beneath the shrine, not in celebration, but in gratitude, because they understood what had happened. Karun had not spared a life out of kindness, it had measured a soul and found it unfinished. And even now, when the wind moves just right and the roof tiles creak softly in the dark, people lower their voices near the temple because they know the serpent is still there, watching, waiting, deciding who comes seeking power and who comes prepared to leave, changed.